I'll be back.
Shalom from Karen Biavna. Before we begin with the Sikha on Inyan Pesach, I'd just like to thank those people involved both on this side of the ocean and the other side of the ocean for their efforts in preparing for this for these shiurim in a time of social separation. It's very beautiful that there are people that are involved in getting Jews together. We just read Parshas Vayakel. Parshas Vayakel has to do with the gathering people together. So even physically we're separated, it's very beautiful to be able to share Divrei Torah with each other. There are still quite a number of Talmidim here that are being involved in Torah, involved in Tefillah. It's very beautiful that Talmidim from overseas could join us, could be mechazik us, and through our being mechazik each other, we hope we'll be worthy of the Geula. A number of introductory comments. We're familiar with the famous Zohar, Kad Yasvin Yisrael Va'askin B'Simchas HaTorah. When the Jewish people are involved in Torah learning, even in difficult conditions. So Kudsha Brichu Omer Pamal Yedilei HaKadosh Baruch Hu comments, so to speak, to his divine counsel. Chazu Banai Chavivai. Look at my beautiful children, the Mishtakchen Yitzar Dilhon, that forget their own sorrows, that put aside their difficulties, are involved in Torah. To be involved, to sit down and learn, to listen to a shiur at this time is, I'm sure, not so easy, very difficult. Time we have, peace of mind, not so much. So to be involved in Torah at a time like this is a very, very beautiful thing. David HaMelech says in Tehillim, if not for the Torah, brings me pleasure. Az avati ba'anyeh, I would just sink, I would just get lost in my tzeros. I think this pasuk could be understood in a couple of ways. On the very simple level, we understand that perhaps the point of the pasuk is that David HaMelech is telling us that Torah is something that could be Mesiach Dato. Torah is something that could take his mind off his tzeros. After all, so many issues to deal with, whether it be issues from his family, from enemies within, enemies without, so many hardships. And David HaMelech says, well, I have the Torah that's able to keep my mind off of my tzeros. That's one level of understanding. But I think on a deeper level, one perhaps could understand that David HaMelech is saying the following. A person that doesn't have Torah, a person that doesn't have a spiritual perspective, a person that Chas v'Shalom doesn't believe in God, then no way in the world would be able to handle such difficulties. He would just go crazy. But a person that knows that whatever HaKadosh Baruch Hu does is for the best, person that learns Torah, person that knows that the Torah tells us that Banim atem l'Hashem lokechem, person that knows that the Torah tells us, as Rabbi Akiva tells us, that whatever HaKadosh Baruch Hu does is for the best, person that knows that HaKadosh Baruch Hu is running the world, HaKadosh Baruch Hu is planning whatever is happening in the world, person that knows that everything is going towards a better place, such a person is able to handle his difficulties. So if not the Torah, which is my delight, which teaches us a positive spiritual perspective on things, then I just wouldn't be able to survive. Okay. There's a very beautiful thought of Rab Sadi Gaon concerning Inyanei Pesach that I'd like to share. Rab Sadi Gaon in his Sefer Emunos V'Deos in Ma'amar Ches speaks of the great importance of remembering Yetzias Mitzraim, and one of the things which he writes over there is the following. The Jewish people now is in a long, difficult exile, and a person in such a situation could lose hope. A person will ask, redemption? How redemption? We have so many issues that we have to deal with. We're so far from a spiritual, from a physical redemption, whether it be security issues, financial issues, and Rahman al-Islam, financial issues from the current situation, issues from all sorts of enemies that we have to deal with, hundreds, millions of enemies, and enemies from within, without. How are we gonna get out of this sticky situation? So the way we're able to gain confidence in that is by looking back at the story of Mitzraim. The Jewish people in Mitzrayim were also in a pretty bad way. And at that time, all HaKadosh Baruch Hu promised Avraham Avinu is V'gam aseh goya sheya'avodu dan anochi v'achar chen yetzu b'chosh gadol. There was nothing about, certainly not explicit, about the Jewish people getting the Torah, having the man, wonderful miracles coming into Eretz Yisrael, all the wonderful things that followed. But nevertheless, HaKadosh Baruch Hu promised, and HaKadosh Baruch Hu fulfilled. So if that's the case, with respect to that was so with respect to Golos Mitzrayim, that we're in such bad shape. The Jewish people were physically, spiritually so impoverished. And nevertheless, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, due to his having promised, HaKadosh Baruch Hu fulfilled that promise in such an amazing fashion. So certainly with respect to the future redemption, the Nevi'im are full of all sorts of amazing promises that HaKadosh Baruch Hu says what the wonderful Geula in the future is going to be like. We have good reason for being sure that HaKadosh Baruch Hu will fulfill those promises, will take us to a better place. So our remembering the redemptions of the past gives us confidence in the present, and helps us look forward to a brighter future. The Rabbeinu Yonah, Talmidei Rabbeinu Yonah, in Brachos, the beginning of Brachos, that Beis and Dapei Harif, explains that this is the great significance of being Somech Geula L'Tfilah. The Rabbeinu Yonah explains that the idea of being Somech Geula L'Tfilah, that expresses one's bitachon HaKadosh Baruch Hu. The person mentions Yetzias Mitzrayim, and then he goes ahead and he davens. He realizes that Yetzias Mitzrayim was not just a one-time event, but rather Yetzias Mitzrayim is something that indicated HaKadosh Baruch Hu's love of the Jewish people, HaKadosh Baruch Hu's concern for the Jewish people, and hence one goes ahead and davens with a confidence that HaKadosh Baruch Hu will pull through for us also in the present and take us to a better place in the future. Remembering the redemption which HaKadosh Baruch Hu did for us is not only something which gives us confidence, but also something which plays an important role in bringing about the redemption. In the Haggadah Shel Pesach, we mentioned the Machlokas Tanaim with respect to the Chiyuv Zechiras Yetzias Mitzrayim at night. Amar Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah, Hareini Kaven Shivim Shana, Lo Zachisi Shete'emer Yetzias Mitzrayim B'Leilos, Ad Shetorashav ben Zama, Shne'emar, Laman Tizkars Yom Tizcham Eretz Mitzrayim Kol Yemei Chayach. Now here the Mishnah has a machlokas, what the kol is coming to be marba, what it's coming to include. Yemei chayacha hayamim, kol yemei chayacha haleilos. That's a drasha of Ben Zoma. The chachamim omrim, yemei chayacha ha'olam hazeh, kol yemei chayacha lahavi limos hamashiach. So according to the sheet of chachamim, the kol is coming to include not only zman hazeh, but also coming to be marbe, coming to include the Moshe Mashiach. So Rav Vadi Yosef, Alav Shalom, in his Haggadah, he asks the question on the Lashon of the Mishnah. The Lashon of the Mishnah is Lahavi Limos HaMashiach, to include the days of Mashiach. Why does it say Lahavi Limos HaMashiach with the Lamed? Why Lahavi Limos HaMashiach? It should say Lahavi Yemos HaMashiach. What's the Lamed doing there? So he suggests that perhaps the Lahavi Limos HaMashiach is coming to hint to the fact that if we do remember Yetzias Mitzrayim, if we focus on that story, we focus on the lessons taught to us by that story, that will bring Lahavi to bring to the days of Mashiach. It will bring us closer to the days of Mashiach. That will bring the times of Mashiach that much nearer. We will be zoch in redemption in the future if we focus on and remember properly the redemption of the past. Parenthetically, we could point out there's a general rule: if we have proper bitachon in our Kadosh Baruch Hu, that is something which brings Siyata Shmaya. Of course, it's very difficult to try to figure out Kadosh Baruch Hu's anhaga in this world, and the issue of how hashgacha process works is not simple. But one thing which we do know is that the extent to which a person ponders the fact that Kadosh Baruch Hu runs the world, the extent to which a person focuses on the fact that Kadosh Baruch Hu is mashkiach on each and every person, and certainly each and every Jew, that is the extent where that increases his level of siyata d'shmaya. This is something which is clear from various Mamar Chazal. There's I think it's a Sefer Karim, right? It's based on the similarly along the Yalkut Shimoni. The pasuk says in Tehillim, Chaf Beis, I believe it is. It says, Rabim machovim la rasha, babotech b'Hashem chesed yisovevenu. Rabim machovim la rasha. There are many pains for the wicked. Babotech b'Hashem, a person that has bitachon in God, chesed yisovevenu, is surrounded by chesed. So it's been pointed out there's certain difficulty in the pasuk. You might have expected the pasuk to say, Rabim machovim la rasha, but tzaddik chesed yisovevenu. After all, the opposite of the contrast with the rasha is tzaddik. But the pasuk says that botech b'Hashem chesed yisovevenu. So even if a person is not a tzaddik, but nevertheless he has bitachon in God, that in of itself is sufficient basis for chesed yisovevenu. And along similar lines, the psukim, which we're familiar with from Tehillim Lamed Gimel, the pasuk says, "Shekar asus lisra rav chalo lo yimaleit." Hinei ein Hashem el yire'ah. God's eyes, God's hashgacha, are on those that fear Him, and on those lemyachalim lechasdo, those that look forward to His righteousness. Latzil mimamas nafsham l'chayosam bar'am. Nafshenu chiksa l'Hashem. We wait for God, and the result is Ezrenu Magenenuhu. Ki bo yismach libenu. Ki b'shem kadsho batachna. Yichastecha Hashem aleinu. On what basis will chastecha Hashem be aleinu? Ka'asher yichanu lach. To the extent that, in fact, we hope for His redemption. On a related note, I'd like to share a beautiful idea which I saw in Rav Biederman's booklet. The famous Maggid, Rav Biederman, has in the booklet, the Parshat Shalach, the following very beautiful thoughts. The pasuk says in Tehillim Kuf Yud Aleph, Zecher asal leneflosav chanun v'rachum Hashem. God made a remembrance. God tells us to remember His nisim. Why? Chanun v'rachum Hashem. Because God is all merciful. What is the connection between that which we're meant to remember, Kadosh Baruch Hu's nisim, on one hand, and the fact that Kadosh Baruch Hu's rachum v'chana? So explained there based on the following story. There was a Jew that lived in Brisk, Rav Yisrael Nisenstruck. He was a businessman and quite a successful businessman at that. But there came a time when he was down on his luck and everything went bad. He lost his great fortune and was left with hardly his furniture and his house. Everything else went. And he decided he wanted to pick himself back up, to get back on his feet. For that, he needed to borrow money. Brisk wasn't known for great wealth of money. Couldn't borrow the money from Reb Chaim, so decided to go to London, where there he heard that Anshel Rothschild perhaps would be helpful in lending him the sum of money that he would need to get back on his feet. So he sold some of his furniture, gave some of the money to his family so they could continue living, and figured the rest of the money would finance his trip to England, to London. He comes to London and he sees that, lo and behold, he's not the only one that's interested in assistance from the Baron. He sees a long line of Jews waiting there. tens, maybe hundreds of Jews waiting, and the workers of the Baron were giving each one a coin, maybe 2 coins, and the fellow told himself, oh boy, this is not going to help me. 1 or 2 coins, that's not going to solve my problem. The workers of the Baron see that the fellow started crying. And they come to him and they tell him, look, we don't have the right to give you any larger sum. After all, we could just follow instructions, not our money. But we can tell you this. Maybe come back on Erev Shabbos. At about noon on Erev Shabbos, that's when the Baron goes through his papers, checks how much charity was given over the week, and try catching him, speaking to him personally. Maybe he'll be able to help you more. So the fellow, in fact, Rabbi Yisrael, comes to the Baron, and he starts talking to him, and the Baron is impressed. He sees a very dignified, scholarly-looking fellow, seems to make a very nice impression, and the Baron invites him for the Shabbos meals. And at the Shabbos meals, Rabbi Yisrael, in fact, shares Divrei Torah, Divrei Chachma, and finds great favor in the eyes of the Baron. Motzei Shabbos, the Baron asks Rabbi Yisrael, okay, now tell me your story. How can I help you? And Rabbi Yisrael tells him that he used to be a wealthy businessman, but now he seems to be down on his luck. He asks, can I borrow a sum of money that will help me get back on my feet? The Baron says, well, hey, tell me, in your good times, how much were your finances worth? And the fellow says, about 10,000 ruble. So the Baron goes to the next door, goes to the room next door, and then comes back with an envelope. Inside the envelope, 10,000 rubles. He says, this is a gift. Not a loan, this is a gift. And the Baron makes sure to give Rabbi Yisrael Nissenstruck his address, the Baron's address. And Rabbi Yisrael says, well, why are you doing this? Why are you giving me your address? So says the Baron, look, I hope that with God's help, you'll be able to get back on your feet. But hey, who knows? Maybe just as now business turned bad, it might happen in the future as well. I want that if next time things turn bad as well, you won't have to make that very long trek from Brisk to London to ask me for the money. You'll have my address. Just write to me, and somehow I'll see to it the money will get to you. Zecher asel niflosav chanan v'racham Hashem. Kodesh Baruch Hu wants us to remember His chasadim. He wants us to remember the redemption. Why? Kodesh Baruch Hu wants to give us the address. When we have a tzara, when we have a difficulty, we're meant to know to whom we need to turn. Zecher asel niflosav. Remember Kodesh Baruch Hu's chasadim, says the pasuk. Why? Because Kodesh Baruch Hu's chanan v'racham. Kodesh Baruch Hu wants to help us also in the future. So thus we're meant to remember Geulas Mitzraim, meant to remember all the Kama Ma'alos Tavos Lamakom Aleinu. Why? Because HaKadosh Baruch Hu wants us to know the address to where we could turn if Chas v'Shalom and when things turn bad. The Ramban points out in Parshas Bo, we know that there seems to be contradiction. On one hand, in Parshas Lech Lecha, we're told that the Golus is going to be 400 years. In Parshas Bo, the Torah tells us it was 430 years. It was after a period of 430 years, the Jewish people are redeemed. So there are different approaches in Mefarshim how to resolve this apparent stira. The famous approach, the approach taken by the Seder Olam, is that the 400 years are counted from 400 years are counted from the birth of Yitzchak. From when Abraham has a zera. The 430 are counted for Bris Ben Abisarim. That's the standard approach, which has a certain difficulty to it. According to that approach, what emerges is that Bris Ben Abisarim was at the time when Avram Avinu was 70 years old. After all, Leidas Yitzchak, when Avram was 100. 30 years beforehand, Avram was 70. So Bris Ben Abisarim when Avram was 70 years old, which is problematic in light of the fact that the pasuk says that when Avram Avinu left Haran, it was 75. So you have to assume that Ein Mukdam Muchar Batara. In any case, the Ramban himself prefers the following approach. Ramban says that both this 400, the period of 400, and the period of 430, they both begin with Bris Ben Abisarim. The original plan was that the Galus was going to be for 100 years. However, the Galus was lengthened for another 30 years, says Ramban. Why? In light of the low spiritual level of the Jewish people in Mitzraim, the Galus did not terminate after 400, rather was extended another 30 years. And the Ramban adds, it would have been extended for even more than that, if not for the prayer of the Jewish people. We weren't worthy of the redemption from Mitzrayim, but we did call out to God. Vanitzak el Hashem Elokei Avoseinu. Rabbi Bachye points out that it is sincere tefillah that is accepted, that is especially dear to God. Lamedcha, he writes, this is in Shmos Beis Chav Gimel, he writes, V'ye'enchu b'nei Yisrael v'atal shavasam el Elokim, Lamedcha she'ein tfilaso shel adam shlema, k'osa shemispalal mitoch hatzara v'hadochak, sheyoser mikubelas, v'hi ha'olah lepanav yisbarach, v'chein timtza b'yona hanavi, Allah v'shalom, she'bi'er yanyan hazeh, she'ne'emar b's'atef alay nafshi, when my soul was weak, es Hashem zacharti, v'tavo elach tfilasi alechal kadshecha, הבטיח הנביא שהתפילה שהיא מתוך הצער והטיפס הנפש היא הנכנסת לפניו אל היכל קדשו יתברך. To daven mitoch tzar is something which is sometimes a little bit difficult. True, if we had an awareness of the difficulties of the Jewish people as a whole, we'd be able to daven mitoch tzar. But generally speaking, when things are going well, somewhat difficult. For better or for worse, from now to time, and davening mitoch tzar is not all that hard. It doesn't need to be dafka when we're davening Shemona Esrei. When we hear of a particular individual that we know that's ill, a particular individual that's having a particularly hard time that's going on, when we feel that tzar, let's say a parak of Tehillim. That when we feel that tzar, let's turn to our Kodesh Baruch Hu and ask him for Rachamei Shamayim of the world, Rachamei Shamayim on that individual, Rachamei Shamayim on all of the Jewish people. In the Sefer Toda'ah, he relates that Yirmiyah HaNavi, when he was going with the Jewish people into Golus after the Churban, and the people were crying, he tells them, he swears to them that if they would have cried even a bit, even a small percentage of the crying that they're doing now, had they done that before the Churban, then they wouldn't have to cry now. Things are bad, but chas v'shalom, things could get worse. If we cry out to God sincerely now, then perhaps we won't have to cry in the future. To end on somewhat of a positive note, Chazal tell us, B'nisan nig'alu, b'nisan masin ligal. Read this week's Parsha HaChodesh. HaChodesh hazeh lachem rosh chodashim. What's the significance of the Jewish people counting from Nisan? You know, by the Umos HaOlam, Malchei Umos HaOlam, we count from Tishrei. But the Jewish people count from Nisan. Rabbi Schechter said over, I believe he's indicated in the name of the Netzid, that the Anhaga of Tishrei is associated with the Anhaga of the Teva. Umos HaOlam, they count from Tishrei. The Anhaga of the Teva, Tishrei after all is when the world was created. The Hag of the Jewish people is the Hag of Nisan. The Hag of Nisan and the Hag which is Me'alatem. The Gemara tells us that when Avram Avinu saw in the stars he wouldn't have children, HaKadosh Baruch Hu tells him, Say mistagnis shelcha. Avram eno molid, but Abraham molid. Ein mazal Yisrael. What happens to Jewish people is not based on all sorts of historical, sociological, astrological forces. Rather, HaKadosh Baruch Hu runs the world. HaKadosh Baruch Hu cares for the Jewish people in ways that are lamala min hateva. So we hope that Bezrat Hashem will pray that Bezrat Hashem things will get better quickly, and we will see that with God's help, with Siyata D'Shmaya, B'nisan Nig'alu, B'nisim Asidin Ligal, Chag Kasher V'Sameach. May we hear good news from all around the world, from all the Jewish people. Thank you very much. All the best.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks so much.
Thank you very much, Rabbi.
Thanks.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Rabbi. It's nice to see you.
Great to see you.